Hi, I'm Claudia from Social Business Wales, and today I'm going to run through a brief overview of the different ways that you can fund a social business. So I'm just going to look at the four main areas you should think about, which are grant funding, debt finance, equity investment, and donations and crowdfunding. Now, as an aside, before I get into those, of course, any social business needs to be generating its own income if it wants to be sustainable in the long term. So I'm not going to talk through this, but I've listed a few ways here that you can think about generating your own income through trading and commissioning. And of course, this is essential for long-term sustainability. So it goes alongside any of the other funding forms that we're going to look at today. So firstly, we're looking at grants. Now, I'm not going to explain what grants are because I think most people are familiar with them. But in terms of thinking about whether it's right for you, obviously a huge benefit is that it's non-repayable money. You don't need to pay it back, it's free. But it does come with targets to hit and outcomes to achieve. So you'll normally find that each funder has a very specific social purpose or public benefit that they want you to achieve as a result. So there's some conditions tied to the money that you get. It's also usually one-off funding, so you really need to see it that way. And it's a competitive application process, which is only getting more and more competitive. So again, look at it as a great way to bring in a bit of extra money, especially for key startup costs, but you need to see it as something that is one-off and it's not going to make up all of the funding for your social business. If you want more advice on grants, then you can go to your local CVC, your County Voluntary Council, to get loads of expert advice on specific local funds in your area. You can also check out the WCVA, who have lots of information about funding on their website. You can have a general Google search around different funding that's available for your type of organisation. And another tip I always tell people is have a look online and on social media and see if you can find similar businesses to what you're looking to do, and have a look, see who funded them, because they'll have all their funders' logos on their websites. So that can be a really useful way to find out which funders will fund the sort of work that you are looking to do. The other thing to look at is debt. So debt is any finance that is going to be repayable. It can come in different forms, but the most common for a social business, especially a new start, is loans. So that can be coming from an institution, such as a bank or a social lender, and that can be secured, which you should avoid because you'd have to put personal security against it, or unsecured, which is more common in the social business sector. You can also get peer-to-peer loans. Now, this can be loans from individuals who are close to the business. It can be from directors themselves, and you can set your own terms for whether there's going to be an interest and what rate at which you'll repay. Debt can also come in the form of a mortgage, so any borrowing that's secured against something, such as a property. Also in the form of credit, so credit cards, or actually purchases that you make on credit. So for example, that could mean buying stock from a supplier on credit. So you buy it now and then you pay for it later. That can be really great, especially when you're at the startup stage, but obviously think about your longer term cash flow and how that might be affected. And you can also have overdrafts. So if you're ever needing a little bit of flexibility in your cash flow, then one option a business always has is talking to their bank about a possible overdraft facility. Debt finance is great in that it's often quick to access and much quicker than grant funding. It's great for short-term cash flow if you're having any issues. And another advantage is that investors can sometimes get tax relief. So that's worth looking into if you're taking out a loan from an individual. However, you always need to really think, can you afford to pay it back? Have you put together a financial model? Do you have projections which show that over time you could afford to be repaying any debt that you've taken on? And bear in mind that interest can be expensive, especially for new start social businesses who don't have a trading record and who are in a higher risk category. Now, there's more information about support. If you go onto the Business Wales website, there's some great information about different social lenders. So I've included the link there, which you can copy down. And if you want to find out more about different tax relief offerings, then again, have a look at Get SITR, which has some really, really useful resources all around tax relief, specifically within the social business sector. Now, another thing you can look at is equity. So that's selling shares and therefore selling ownership in your company. Now, this is less common in the social business sector. It's something people are more familiar with the private business sector. However, it can come in the form of community shares or a private share offer done by a community interest company. So with community shares, that can only be done by a cooperative society, a community benefit society, or a charitable community benefit society. So have a look at your legal structure. Now, it's not regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority, so that does mean it's high risk, but it's worth looking into. Another option can be a private share offer done by a community interest company limited by shares. However, these share offers are regulated by the FCA. So when I say it's private, you would not be able to promote it publicly. Otherwise, you'd have to go through due diligence costs. So it's not a very commonly used option, but these are the two options out there. Now, the advantage of using equity to raise startup funds, particularly looking at the community shares model, is that community ownership can be a really great way to bolster your business. If you have the type of project, type of business where having the local community as key stakeholders, as shareholders, people who have a vested interest in the organisation benefits you, then that can be great. It's unrestricted funding, so essentially you can decide how you spend it as long as you are transparent right from the start about what people are investing in. Again, investors can sometimes get tax relief, and it's what we call long-term patient capital. So essentially, it means that you can decide when you repay your shareholders. Now, community ownership doesn't necessarily suit everyone, so you can see I've put it as both a pro and a con on this list. Not everyone likes the idea of having lots and lots of shareholders who all have a democratic voting right and who all have to come along to the AGM. It also limits your options for legal structure. As I said, you do need to have a society structure to do this. So that's something that can be a drawback, and it can be a lot of work. So it tends to work well for businesses that are looking to raise quite a significant amount of funding, perhaps to save a local heritage building in the community or to save the local pub in the village. So it's worth knowing about. And if you want more advice or support around looking at share offers, then again, please get in touch with us as Social Business Wales. We can support you with that. Or you can contact Community Shares Wales, which is another project we have at the Wales Co-operative Centre, which can give you free specialist support all around community shares. Now, finally, I'm going to touch on donations and crowdfunding. So again, this is free money. This is where people are donating money to your business, usually because they feel really passionately about the particular cause that you are supporting. Now, it's usually done as a campaign over a time-bound period, maybe 6 to 8 weeks. It's important to have a short enough period that you keep up momentum, and important to have a deadline so that people are actually incentivized to sit down and go through the process of making their donation to you. So you can have donations appeals in online fundraising. You can use different platforms for this. We also hear the term crowdfunding. These are all terms referring to the same type of principle, but crowdfunding generally tends to be done online. Sometimes it can be rewards based, so that can be something like for every £20 that you back in our project, we'll give you a t-shirt, or for higher amounts you can offer higher rewards. Or if you're a business that is going to be creating or selling products, then again, sometimes crowdfunding campaigns say that a backer, as a result of backing the campaign, they will get a free X, Y, or Z, depending on what the business will make. Now, this is great, but you do need to think about cash flow, of course. So the good things about donations and crowdfunding, again, it's non-repayable money, so you're not taking on lots of risk as a business. It's unrestricted, you can use it however you wish. If you are a charity, then you can sometimes claim gift aid, although you need to take advice around whether you do a rewards-based campaign or not. Campaigns in themselves also a really good way to raise the profile of your organisation. About 20% of the online media that you share in your campaign should be about asking people to invest, but the other 80% really should be selling your story, talking about the good work you're achieving, sharing case studies. So again, that of itself actually can really get a lot of support for your business and raise your profile. It's a great way to test the demand for your business, especially if you're doing this for a new business. If there are enough people willing to back it, then you have a good idea that there are enough people who will value what you're looking to do and who will support it. On the other hand, if you're not very successful in actually getting enough backers in your crowdfunding campaign, while that would be a pity, at least it means that fairly early on in your journey, you're learning about what limitations there might be in terms of support, and it can give you a good chance to go back and reevaluate what you're doing and see if there's any way you can change it. It's also great match funding. So again, because of this idea that it helps test the demand for your initiative, grant funders or lenders really like seeing it because it shows that actually there are people out there who've put their own hands in their pockets because they really want this to happen. So again, even if it's not going to raise the full amount of funding that you need to set up your social business, it will probably help you in then accessing other funds. As I mentioned earlier, if it is rewards based, then you do need to think about how that will affect your future cash flow. If you're essentially selling something now that you haven't created yet, where the cost of making it hasn't happened yet. And also it tends to raise smaller amounts because it is a donation. So people are sparing money that they know they're not going to see again. So the average amount someone will donate in a crowdfunding campaign is about £50. So you need to think about realistically, how big is your community of support? How many people are going to back your campaign? And if they're putting in amounts between £20 and £50, then realistically, how much are you going to raise overall? If you want more advice, then I definitely recommend having a look at the different crowdfunding platforms out there. So I've listed some of the main ones, such as Crowdfunder, Kickstarter, and GoFundMe, but there are plenty of others as well. So have a good look online. Again, look at some campaigns, see if you can find anything similar to what you're looking to do. You can also look at other online fundraising platforms such as Local Giving, which has a great program in Wales, which offers free support, or Just Giving. Now, these are all different terms for much the same thing. It's all about using an online campaign to get people to donate. But the slight difference between online and crowdfunding, it tends to be about whether it's kind of kickstarting a new business, whereas online fundraising platforms might be more about sustained and regular fundraising activities for an established organisation. So that was a brief overview, but if you do want any more advice on any of these topics, or you are just generally looking for support in setting up a new social business or growing an established one in Wales, then please do get in touch with us, as one of our advisors will gladly help you along your journey. So our contact details are here. You can look at our website at www.wales.coop/SBW New Start. You can call us on this number, or you can email your inquiry to sbwnewstart@wales.coop, and you'll be put in touch with the advisor for your region. Thanks very much.